it's okay for us to tell our own story. The fear of am I crossing the line as a journalist was the biggest hurdle I had making this documentary film. This experience of violence, harassment exists everywhere. This documentary we've been making for past 8-9 years already, and we just released this year, and we're very excited. This is a very personal story of me as well. I'm in it, I'm dialecting it, but it's my own story. It's the story of my own sexual violence survival story, but also at the same time, it's the story about how to tell the world it's okay for us to tell our own story, and it's okay to show our power as a storyteller, even it's very personal.
On this stage is the next generation of rock star journalists. Thank you so much, One Young World, for the invitation to present the Journalist of the Year award. Shiori is a journalist, writer, documentary filmmaker focused on gender-based human rights issues. For her contribution to Japan's Me Too movement, she was listed as one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine in 2020. Shiori.
Just because I felt like I was welcome to the community among these amazing other powerful journalists from different parts of the world, I think one of the reasons that empowered me a lot is because it was the time when I was editing this film, 2022, and I often question myself, is it okay to investigate and cover my own story? Isn't it taboo to, talk about or cover your own story as a journalist? But being selected for this amazing award of the Year of the Journalist just gave me power and encouragement to keep continuing telling my own story, even it's a hard one to tell, even that's the hard one to tell from our society, especially from Japan. And just being celebrated among other journalists who was, have very strong determination to tell difficult stories. I remember, I think it was a time that I was still scared to use the social media. Twitter, Instagram, I was really trying to avoid using it because after speaking up about my own story, I also faced a huge online trolls and threats.
I have been away from social network for 5 years, but today I've been meeting so many amazing people who ask my Insta. So I tell you what, I'm going to rebirth with Insta today so I can live freely.
But after being celebrated in that space, I was encouraged by other journalists. Why don't we start using the power of social media? So I do remember, surrounded by my fellow journalists, I decided to post first time in a long time on my social media about winning this amazing award at One Young World. There were so many discussion among our team. We questioned a lot, like what's the best way and what's the balance that we can keep to tell the personal story. We kind of decided to treat this story as if we are telling someone else's story too, because it's easier when you're trying to tell someone else's story, and you also, tend to put more care and passion. And I had an amazing teammate to do that together, and understanding that I need time to do this, to go through this process. The fear of am I crossing the line as a journalist was the biggest hurdle I had making this documentary film. But again, I just have to acknowledge myself that a documentary film, you have more flexibility to tell personal stories. And what I love about making documentary film is that it takes a village to make it. It was a teamwork, and so I felt like I always have people to talk to together, and also because we are dealing with something it's not easy to talk about from where I'm from, it was great to have this global support of team from different parts of the world, and to share the story and to meet people also through One Younger World was amazing, because I think we recognize the needs of telling this story as well. You know, when you think about journalists, you must have to be part of some organization or platform, but now I think everyone can be a journalist, and you have a tool and platform to do so. You have, you know, a phone to take a video, photos, report what's happening around you to you in your community. So I think it's really something that we all know. I mean, I think we already have started doing it, posting our life, but also take more step to pay attention to tell the story from your own perspective, knowing that you have power to tell with your own voice. Of course, each country has a different reaction, but it was surprising to see also how many of them are surviving the same pain as well and different levels. So I don't think I would realize how impactful cinema is and how deeply rooted this pain is everywhere in the world, no matter where. I have to compare, you know, Sweden has a better law, Japan is like that, but this experience of violence, harassment exists everywhere, and it's shocking, but it's a great way to release it through cinema, to share it together, because I think it's important for people who's trying to step out with their own story, knowing how difficult it can be received in their community. I think it's important to know you have to believe there is other parts of the world that understands you. And I think it's often scary because especially in social media, online world, it looks so big and it looks like you lost your world when people are attacking you, when you don't see the face, when you don't know the name, when you feel like number is so much more than you can think of. You feel like you lost your world that you can live in, but always remember there are people who's always rooting for you. I feel like before it was a bit hard to open safer place for this discussion, but I feel like now I think there would be more moment to reflect to you, because you have to go through with the journey with the film for 100 minutes together. So I think it's more slower process of thinking about it, reflecting to yourself, like, did it happen to you, someone close to you? So it's not just gonna be, you know, quick reaction, I think. So I'm sure it's gonna be a big therapeutic process for all of us. Now I can proudly say I'm a, you know, proud feminist activist in 2017. That time I felt like I was pushed into the box where, you know, by someone else, that I should be that way and that way. So I felt like I didn't have my control to speak about something. But through this journey, I think I learned many things. So legally speaking, only in Japan, is that right after I spoke to this public about my own experience back in 2017, finally male victim can claim the rape report. Before it was only for female victim. So that was the biggest change ever made in 110 years that time. Just imagine, you know, before, when the law was formed, the women didn't even have a voting right, and we waited too long to make this change. And last year was the second biggest change since 2017, that age of consent was updated from 13 years old to 15 years old. So that took some time, but that was biggest change. So but I think what we need to update more is around the consent, idea of consent. To prove the rape, still the victim has to prove how much he or he has been threatened or violated. So it's not really about consent. So that's something I really wish through this film to create more conversation around it. I feel like because we didn't have a big Me Too movement, it's slowly, gently still happening. It takes time because we didn't change our law and support system. So, but the problem is still that it's really heavily weighted for survivors to speak because there are not much legal support around it. So it's really heavily on waiting for survivor to speak. And I think it shouldn't be like that, because it's a lot to commit to speak, like what I went through, all the online troll and everything. So I just really wish, before we have to step out to public to speak about your nightmare, I really think we need to move quicker to update our law. But again, it's not just about Japan. So I just really wish this film can be the tool to open up every conversation that needs to happen around the world. For the sexual violence survivor, it might sound cliche, but I always tell them, believe in your own truth. You're the only one who can believe in yourself. Because when these things happen, you get confused, you blame yourself, and people around you might say different things. But how you feel it, you know the best, and so you're the only one who can believe yourself.